So for example, if we have some graph f of x that, let's just say, looks something like this, and we wanted to find the derivative or the slope at a specific point right here, we'll call A. The derivative will allow us to find what the slope is at this point A. Let's say we're trying to find the derivative for all points for this function, f of x equals 2x. In order to do so, we're going to have to apply the definition of a derivatives formula, which looks like this. This apostrophe, this notation is called f prime of x, is what you just use to call a derivative. So now what does this mean? This means that right here, this x plus h, all this means is we're just going to plug it in to every single x we see in the original function. It's going to look something like this. And then we're going to plug in f of x, the original function. It's all going to be over h. So now from here, all we have to do is compute and solve for the limit. Sorry, this is an x. So therefore, these two x's cancel out. And the h's cancel, 2h over h, which is equals 2. Now, let's use the definition of a derivative to solve for this problem. So, we're going to have f prime of x equals the limit as h approaches 0 of f of x plus h minus f of x over h. So, we're going to plug it in here. So, we're going to have f prime of x equals the limit as h approaches 0 of 5. Now we plug in the x plus h because we see that there's an x right here. X plus h, and don't forget to square it, minus 2. Now we subtract by the original function, which is 5x squared minus 2. I'm just putting this in brackets just to make sure that this whole thing here is being subtracted, so you don't make any mistakes there. Divide by h. Now all we have to do is computate. So now we have to expand this, and I'm going to multiply this negative through. Expand and multiply this. So it will be x squared plus 2xh plus h squared minus 2 minus 5x squared plus 2 all over h. And then multiply everything out. 5x squared plus 10xh plus 5h squared minus 2 minus 5x squared plus 2 over h. Now we can cancel. So this 2 and this 2 will cancel. This 5x squared and that 5x squared will cancel. So now all we're left is 10xh plus 5h squared divided by h. And since we have an h in all, since we have an h in the 10, the 5, and in the denominator, they're all being multiplied, we can cancel them. So we're going to have 10x plus 5h. And don't forget this limit here. So we're still taking the limit as h approaches 0. So therefore, we're going to have 10x plus 5 times 0, which equals 10x, which is f prime of x, which is our final answer. Okay, now we're going to try and get the derivative for this function, which is a little bit more tricky. So we'll go ahead and plug this into our formula. F prime of x equals the limit as h approaches 0 of, we'll just go ahead and plug this in right away. So we'll have 8. And we're going to have the square root. We're going to, since there's an x here, we're going to plug in that x plus h, and we're going to subtract by the original function and divide by h. just by looking at this, you can't plug in h immediately, and we're going to see that we're going to have to use a conjugate here, but to just make things cleaner, I'm first going to factor out that 8, just leave it on the side right here, square root of x plus h minus square root of 8 all over h. So now we can multiply by the conjugate, which is square root of x. Oops, this is supposed to be x. And remember, we can do this because this cancels out to be 1, so it's the same thing as multiplying by 1. So now we just have to simplify here, and we will get x plus h minus x in the numerator, and then in the denominator we'll just leave this, because you can see right here these x's will cancel. So now that they cancel, this turns, we can multiply back by this 8. We have an 8h over h times the square root of x plus h plus square root x. And we can see here they're both multiplying, so you can cancel. So we'll be left with an 8 over the square root x plus h plus square root x. And now we can take that limit as it approaches 0. So this gives us 8 over square root x plus square root x, which just equals 8 over 2 square root x. So we have found our derivative, which is 8 over 2 square root x from our original function, 8 times the square root of x. But this can be simplified to 4 over the square root of x just by dividing by 2. Now, let's say we wanted to find the slope of a point. For example, so the graph looks something like this. Let's just say we wanted to find the slope at x equals 9. So this is just an estimate of the graph. We'll say it looks something like this. So all we have to do is take our derivative of prime of x equals 4 over the square root of x, plug in 9, so we have 4 over square root of 9, which equals 4/3. So that means this slope right here, this tangent line has a slope of 4 over 3.